in 2019 in Caracas at the non-aligned movements meeting, at the side of the meeting, a group was formed, group of friends to defend the UN Charter, an initiative of internationalism against extinction. Could you tell us a little bit about this new platform?
Well, defending the UN Charter is a very, actually, noble objective. The UN Charter has a lot of good things in it. And it's very interesting to look at how the rich and powerful countries, right now the US is dominant, how they view the UN Charter. They review it as a scrap of paper that's meaningless. In the United States, you're supposed to worship the Constitution. You take a look at Article 6 of the Constitution. It says, a treaty entered into by the US government is the supreme law of the land, and every official is required to observe it without exception. So the UN Charter is the main treaty in the post-war period. So it's the supreme law of the United States. Well, take a look at the Charter. For example, Article 2, Section 4, which says the threat or use of force in international affairs is a crime. Can you think of any American president who hasn't used the threat or use of force in violation of the US Constitution? Name one. Okay. When Obama says all options are open in the case of Iran, meaning we can bomb you with nuclear weapons if we like, that's a violation of the US Constitution. I've occasionally discussed this in law schools, and the reaction is interesting. In fact, there is a cadre of professionals called international lawyers whose task is to show that words don't mean what they say, they mean something else. Okay? That's part of the intellectual community. So the UN Charter is very much worth defending. You see this all over. Take the notion, there's now a very prominent notion called R2P, responsibility to protect. We have to, after the Cold War ended, you couldn't say the Russians are coming anymore. It was necessary to find some new pretext for violent intervention. So a new notion of humanitarian intervention was developed. Was based on the responsibility to protect. The United Nations General Assembly, 2005, passed a resolution on responsibility to protect, which begins by saying we must observe the UN Charter. No deviation from the UN Charter. So we can encourage countries to try to move towards more humane policies, but we cannot use any threat or use of force to impose this. The level of conscious deceit would be shocking if we didn't know that this has been going on through imperial history. In fact, some of the small things that happen are, to me at least, more revealing than the horrible ones. So let's take COVID again. The Western countries are monopolizing the vaccine for themselves. The most so-called humane among them are among the worst. Canada is storing up probably more vaccines that it can't use than anyone else. They all know very well that by depriving Africa, Asia, Latin America of vaccines, they are committing suicide. What they're doing is allowing the virus to mutate freely, develop new variants. We already see them, which there'll be no way to protect yourself against. So let's commit suicide in order to make more, to get things for ourselves tomorrow. There is an attempt in the world to develop a people's vaccine, which will be given essentially just at cost to the world. The European and American, the rich countries are blocking it because it might harm the profits of drug companies. It'll undermine what are called their intellectual property rights, which are exorbitant, crazed patent rights which never existed in history, which give monopoly pricing power to drug companies, big media, and others. Nothing like that ever existed. But we got to maintain that so to ensure that there won't be a people's vaccine. Well, there are countries trying to work on a people's vaccine. China, Russia, Cuba, literally unmentionable. You can't find a mention in the United States of the fact that Cuba has by now 4 vaccine candidates and is beginning to offer it to others cost-free. About the one mention of Cuba that you can find is the one I said, pressure from the United States to prevent poor suffering countries from benefiting from Cuban doctors. You can mention that in the small print. So I think, yes, we should have a commission, a project that says, let's defend the Declaration of Human Rights. Let's even defend the US Constitution. Pretty rotten document, but it's a bunch of slave owners and rich slave owners in Philadelphia wrote the document to undermine democracy. But it has some good things in it, like what I quoted. So let's defend them. All of these things should be done. And I think the step that was taken to defend the UN Charter is a very significant one, which should be expanded. We have to move towards genuine internationalism. And so far, there's really only one country that practices genuine internationalism, the country that is most hated and most attacked in the United States, its worst enemy, Cuba. Cuba is the one country that is committed to genuine internationalism.